Hello, this is the fifth in a series of videos about critical thinking. This one is based on extracts from Ben Goldacre's book, Bad Science. In it, Goldacre warns that newspaper reports and the news media generally report science rather inaccurately, and he suggests that scientific methodologies are very important. So, let's see why. On page 308, Goldacre points out that specialist correspondents, when science becomes front-page news, are often sidelined, and the fact that they are not even used as a resource during these periods has predictable consequences. Journalists are used to listening with a critical ear to briefings from press officers, politicians, PR executives, salespeople, lobbyists, celebrities and gossip mongers, and they generally display a healthy natural skepticism. But in the case of science, they often don't have the skills to critically appraise a piece of scientific evidence on its merits. At best, the evidence of these experts will only be examined in terms of who they are as people, or perhaps who they have worked for. Journalists and many campaigners think that this is what it means to critically appraise a scientific argument. The scientific content of stories, the actual experimental evidence, is brushed over and replaced with didactic statements from authority figures on either side of the debate, which contributes to a pervasive sense that scientific advice is somehow arbitrary and predicated upon a social role, the expert, rather than on transparent and readily understandable empirical evidence. And of course, you can look at one of our other videos on truth by authority, right? In scientific thinking, it's the evidence that we're interested in, not if somebody's an authority or not. And that's reflected, of course, in the writing style. On page 317, Goldacre writes, "If you visit the premises of the Royal Society in London, you'll see its motto proudly on display, Nullius in verba, on the word of no one. What I like to imagine this refers to is the importance of publishing proper scientific papers if you want people to pay attention to your work. A researcher can claim for years that he's found this or found that. However, if he hasn't published his findings, he can claim them until he's blue in the face, because until we can see exactly what he did, we can't see what flaws there may be in his methods. Maybe he didn't select the subjects properly. Maybe he measured the wrong things. If he doesn't write it up formally, we can never know, because that is what scientists do, write papers and pull them apart to see if their findings are robust." He goes on page 320, "If it has been published in full, I can read it and pick holes in it, and I am more than happy to do so, because science is about critiquing openly published data and methodologies. And in the real world, all studies have some flaws, to a greater or lesser extent. Often they are practical ones. For example, the researchers couldn't get hold of a particular tissue they ideally would have used. They couldn't get the ethics committee approval for the research, and so on." Goldacre also talks about opportunity costs. Economists talk about opportunity costs, the things you could have done but didn't because you were distracted by doing something less useful. Goldacre says that the greatest harm posed by the avalanche of nonsense that we have seen if you've read his book, is best conceived of as the opportunity cost of bullshit. He goes on page 338 to say that the greatest opportunity cost comes from the media, which has failed science so spectacularly, getting stuff wrong and dumbing it down. No amount of training will ever improve the wildly inaccurate stories, because newspapers already have specialist health and science correspondents who do understand science. Editors will always cynically sideline those people and give stupid stories to generalists for the simple reason that they want stupid stories. Science is beyond their intellectual horizon, so they assume you can just make it up anyway. In an era where mainstream media is in fear for its life, their claims to act as effective gatekeepers to information are somewhat undermined by the content of pretty much every column or blog entry that Goldacre has ever written. Have a look at his website if you're not sure what I'm talking about here. The main point is, when you're writing an academic paper, the methodology section is extremely important for you to think about, as is the writing style. You have to be very clear what you did, what your results were, and of course think very, very carefully about the reliability of information that you are getting from news media sources. Okay, good luck.